Aside from drinking milk, our little protagonist's favorite pastime is staring blankly at the ceiling. His mother, Sarah, simply assumes he's a shy, introverted baby, unaware that he is actually busy monitoring an evolution status panel in his mind. After a satisfying meal, the panel shows his energy bar is finally full, followed by a prompt that makes him perk up. His first evolution is ready. He is presented with 3 options, and to be honest, they all look quite promising. The first option, rapid growth, offers a 10% boost to his development speed, but it isn't quite tempting enough. Options 2 and 3 focus on basic attributes, and while it's hard to judge which is better at first glance, their names suggest 2 completely different evolutionary paths. After hesitating for 3 seconds, recalling his past life as a blogger who stayed up until 3 a.m. and ruined his health, he realizes that a strong body is the true foundation of everything. With that in mind, he selects the humanoid beast evolution path, and we see his constitution attribute immediately jump to 2. The physical changes are instant. First, his breathing becomes deep and powerful, and then his mind clears, chasing away the usual infant drowsiness. He feels hungrier than usual, but the real surprise is his vision. He can now clearly see the news playing on the TV across the room. He stares wide-eyed at the screen, subconsciously sticking his tiny fist into his mouth to chew on it with great interest. But just as he gets invested in the broadcast, the screen goes black. Sarah has turned off the TV. She gently pulls his wet fingers out of his mouth. She is filled with doubt, wondering if her 1-week-old baby could actually be watching television. Observing him closely, she notices his eyes are remarkably clear and alert. She carries him away from the set, murmuring that babies shouldn't watch TV because it might hurt their eyes. Inside, he is practically screaming that he wants to watch and that his eyes are perfectly fine. Sarah expects him to cry, but instead, he just pouts in dissatisfaction. Amused, she leans down and gives his little cheek a loud, affectionate kiss. He turns his face away in silence. Having the mental age of a 17-year-old, he isn't quite used to this level of motherly affection. Sarah, however, thinks he's just being playful. She leans in for another kiss, but feeling a wave of hunger, he lets out a symbolic cry before calming down to wait for his formula. Over the last few days, he and Sarah have formed a silent understanding. A dry cry means he's hungry, and crying while tugging his diaper means he needs a change. Being able to precisely communicate his needs makes life much easier for his mother. As Sarah prepares the milk, she sighs, wishing her daughter, Chloe, had been this easy to raise. Hearing that name makes his cheek twitch with a rather unnatural expression. Sarah sticks the bottle in his mouth and laughs, asking why he pouts at the mention of his sister. He says nothing, focused on the milk, and soon the bottle is completely empty. Still feeling unsatisfied, he rubs his mouth and lets out another cry until he finishes a second bottle and lets out a satisfied burp. With his growing appetite, his energy bar increases by 2% daily, meaning his next evolution should arrive in about a month. Just then, an 8-year-old girl comes skipping into the room. Her school skirt is wrinkled, her white stockings are filthy, and her red leather shoes click loudly against the floor. Sarah sees the state of her daughter, and her eyes widen with frustration. Chloe, however, just tilts her head back with a sense of pride and begins to speak. And so, she grins, though the look she gives her baby brother is slightly mocking. She flashes her small canine teeth and shakes a fist, warning him not to mess with her. Then, his father, Mark, arrives home. He wants to hold his son, but his wife shoos him away because he reeks of cigarettes. Resigned, he rolls up his sleeves and heads into the kitchen to help. Soon, the family gathers for dinner, but halfway through the meal, Mark opens the freezer and pulls out several candy-like items. At first, it looks like a treat for the pet cat, but Mark places one in everyone's bowl: Sarah's, Chloe's, the cat's, and his own. Chloe immediately drops her chopsticks in protest, complaining that they taste like garbage and she hates eating them. Her father reminds her that these are rare treasures they only get once a week, and without them, she'd never win a fight at school. Chloe hesitates, her face a mask of conflict, before finally swallowing it whole. Our protagonist can't help but wonder exactly what kind of candy they are eating. It isn't until later, while listening to Mark and Sarah talk, that we learn that candy is actually honey glue. Hearing them use terms he doesn't yet understand, our little hero holds his bottle high to hide his shock. Clearly, this world has far more secrets than he imagined. A month later, seeing his energy bar finally hit 100%, he opens the menu for his second evolution. Once again, he is presented with 3 paths, and this time he chooses to evolve his mind. The moment his spirit attribute increases, he feels as though time itself has slowed down. To be more accurate, his thinking speed has accelerated so much that the past month's experiences flash through his mind in an instant. Just as he begins to explore these new mental depths, Sarah picks him up and places him on a floor covered in a large red cloth. Following tradition, a baby's 1-month anniversary involves a grabbing test to predict their future career. As he crawls across the cloth, surrounded by various trinkets, he prepares to just grab something at random to get the ceremony over with. Suddenly, his status panel unlocks the profession module. Now, as he looks at the items on the red cloth, floating titles appear above them. First, he sees a keyboard. The panel identifies the career as a blogger, noting the pay is low, the risk of sudden death is high, and The fans are constantly demanding updates. He pushes the keyboard away immediately and scans the other messy options, some of which look incredibly high risk. He continues to crawl, searching for something better, until his eyes finally settle on 3 specific items. The professions of sniper, explorer, and martial artist appear before him. Considering his humanoid beast evolution path, he realizes that only by becoming a martial artist can he truly capitalize on his physical constitution and reach his full potential. Deep down, he feels a surge of genuine excitement. Previously, he could only evolve by eating massive amounts of food, which limited him to once a month. Now, with a profession panel, he can learn skills and grow while he eats. To be honest, the mere thought of this double-speed growth makes him feel quite smug. After the ceremony, he begins researching how to acquire professional skills. Learning martial arts will have to wait until he can actually run and jump, of course. He notes that his burst and agility coefficients seem to rely entirely on his base constitution to be effective. In short, his primary goal remains increasing his physical strength. For the next month, he focuses entirely on drinking milk, alternating between Sarah and large quantities of formula. As his energy bar climbs steadily, he finally reaches his 3rd evolution. This time, he decisively chooses humanoid beast again. Once his body is strong enough, he'll have the power of a tiger in the body of an infant, a perfect, if slightly deceptive, defense. After all, who would suspect a baby in diapers is actually a trained martial artist? As his constitution hits level 3, he feels his legs fill with newfound power. Gripping the rails of his crib, he slowly pulls himself up into a standing position. Just then, Sarah walks into the bedroom and gasps in delight. "Oh my goodness, look at you standing all by yourself." She is astonished that her 2-month-old son has already learned to stand. She showers him with praise while keeping a protective hand nearby to catch him. With Sarah watching over him, he decides to turn the family's large bed into his personal training ground. At first, he tries to stand without using his hands. After about a dozen tumbles, he manages to stay upright, albeit a bit wobbly. Once stable, he attempts his first steps, though his balance is poor and he falls the moment he moves a leg. But every time he falls, he scrambles back up with remarkable energy. Sarah watches him with a proud smile, unaware of the intense training session taking place. He pushes himself for a full half hour until his stamina drops to 45%. Exhausted, he collapses onto the bed and falls fast asleep the moment his eyes close. This 3rd evolution has finally matured his physical form enough that he can begin learning to speak. A little later, Sarah points at an object and asks, "What's this, baby?" She is convinced her son is a genius because of how quickly he learns. Even without a formal test, she feels a deep sense of accomplishment raising him. She is quite pleased with herself, having no idea that her genius baby has a very specific agenda. When she carries him into the study, he is even happier. Since his movements are limited, self-study is the only way to unlock professional skills. However, Sarah keeps a very close eye on the phone, computer, and TV, leaving him with only the bookshelves to explore. He scans the shelves with wide eyes until he finds exactly what he needs. Reaching out, he points at a book titled Basics of Sanda Combat and slowly, carefully, lets out a happy giggle. Our little hero lets out a happy giggle. Although Sarah has no idea why her infant son wants a basic manual on Sanda combat, she smiles and hands the book to him anyway. He takes it and immediately flips it open. He reads carefully, absorbing the introductions to basic footwork and striking techniques. Looking at the diagrams, he feels confident that he can mimic most of the movements, at least in his mind, for now. Finally, his profession panel shifts. Seeing his basic boxing experience increase by a single point makes him incredibly excited, as it confirms he truly can self-study skills. He begins punching the air with renewed vigor until his stamina hits 35%. His vision goes dark, and he falls fast asleep on the bed instantly. When he finally wakes up at 10 o'clock that night, he is starving. Due to the overtraining, he downs 3 full bottles of milk before letting out a satisfied burp. At first, Sarah thought it was a blessing that her son had such a healthy appetite. However, after seeing him finish an entire tin of formula in just 2 days, she begins to worry about the family's rising expenses. She mentions returning to school to teach extra classes for more income. Our hero pretends not to understand, but deep down, he starts to worry. As he continues to evolve, his food intake will only increase. If the family can't afford it, then what? He realizes it's a bit early for a 3-month-old to be solving financial crises. He decides to wait until next month when he can visit the school with his mother. Perhaps he'll find a solution there. For now, he just needs to grow. On the evening of the 4th, the family gathers for dinner. His father, Marcus, brings good news. The school is transferring him to the honors track. Becoming an honors teacher means a higher salary and a much brighter professional future. Marcus opens a beer and raises a glass in celebration. It truly is a happy moment for the family. It's then that Sarah shares her own decision to return to work early to help ease their financial burden. After reviewing the household expenses Sarah has tracked, Marcus reluctantly agrees. He then mentions he might apply at the Geological Bureau to see if he can get lucky and draw another Old World Pass. The Old World Pass, that's the second time our hero has heard that name. Using his infant intuition, he senses that it must be a very dangerous place. Meanwhile, his older sister, Chloe, listens to the adults with a sour expression. She summarizes the situation in her head. Because her little brother eats so much, she won't have any pocket money left. She glares at him indignantly, asking what the point of all that milk is if he just pees it out anyway. He pretends not to understand and simply gives her a silly, drooly grin. Sarah rolls her eyes at Chloe, pointing out that she's one to talk, considering she only ever eats meat and refuses to touch her vegetables. Chloe argues that she needs the meat for strength. Otherwise, how could she win fights against her classmates? The bickering lightens the atmosphere at the table considerably. A week later, after practicing his Sonda basics, our hero finally finds a sparring partner. His opponent is the family cat, Cookie. Ever since he started his training, Cookie has been watching him closely from the sidelines. Strangely, since his second evolution increased his mind attribute, he seems to understand what the pets are saying. Cookie meows a few times, and he understands perfectly. She wants to see what he's made of. He takes a fighting stance, and Cookie stands opposite him, ready to engage. To be honest, it's a fairly even matchup in terms of size. The eyes of both man and cat burn with competitive fire. Suddenly, Cookie leaps forward. Our hero loses his footing and is immediately pinned to the floor. It's a decisive, if somewhat embarrassing, defeat. Cookie stands on his chest, her paws pressing down as they lock eyes. She lets out a skeptical meow, essentially asking if this martial arts stuff is actually useful for protection. He never expected his first match as a martial artist to end in a knockout. In the following days, he dedicates himself even more to his training. After his fourth evolution further boosts his constitution, he can now throw a beautiful hook and pull off fluid combos with his footwork. He checks his skill panel once more. For a 6-month-old, he's quite satisfied with his progress. At this rate, he'll be a level 1 martial artist before his first birthday. He plans to max out his boxing experience today, hoping for a reward once the skill levels up. The moment we've been waiting for finally arrives. As our hero raises his basic boxing to level 1, his profession panel flashes with a reward. He earns 3 free attribute points and, without a second thought, pours them all into Constitution. To the casual observer, he simply looks a bit taller than other infants his age, but underneath his clothes, his little body is becoming remarkably sturdy. Despite a bit of baby fat from his massive appetite, he is starting to look like a tiny, human-shaped beast. He can now track the progress of 2 distinct evolution paths. With his constitution sitting at 11.5, he realizes that reaching 30 points will officially unlock the infant human beast status. After finishing his daily workout, he crawls quietly to the study door to listen to Sarah's online lecture. She is currently teaching a classic text called The Peach Blossom Spring, a story about a hidden utopia. As a gentle breeze drifts through the room, Sarah finishes the main text and begins explaining the historical background and the mysteries surrounding it. Our hero leans against the doorframe, listening intently. He wonders if this heavenly void is the same thing and what the old days truly are. After dinner, Marcus provides a clearer answer. The heavenly void is a place where space and time are utterly chaotic. In that realm, taking a single step might transport you to another world, or standing still for a few seconds could mean a century has passed outside. The old days are special pockets within this void, perfect copies of specific moments in time. Imagine staying home for a day, and the void creates countless identical copies of that exact day. Everything in those copies is physically real, allowing people from the outside to enter through portals to gather resources. Essentially, it's like entering a dungeon in a video game to farm loot. After the explanation, Marcus looks at his son's pensive face and asks if he understands. And honestly, we have to wonder if the viewers at home are following along too. Our hero nods solemnly, but then his expression stiffens with a sudden, chilling thought. He asks his father if their own world could just be another copy. Marcus is visibly stunned by the depth of the question. He hadn't expected his infant son to grasp the concept so well, let alone question the nature of reality. Marcus smiles and explains that copied life forms collapse the moment they leave their old day, whereas they can travel freely. Relieved, our hero returns to his Sonda training. Marcus had noticed him clutching that basic manual lately, clumsily mimicking the diagrams. But today, something is different. As Marcus turns to leave, he catches a glimpse of the boy executing a fluid combo. He freezes, his eyes locked on the infant's movements. Noticing his father's strange expression, our hero stops and asks what's wrong. Marcus forces a stiff smile, noting that his son's progress is remarkably fast. Making a sudden decision, he tells the boy that starting tomorrow, he will personally train both him and his sister after school. Our hero is overjoyed. After all, his father is a professional physical education teacher. Chloe, however, looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. The next evening, Marcus starts Chloe on cardio while he coaches our hero on combat techniques. Seeing that the boy has mastered the basics of boxing, Marcus demonstrates the fundamental Sonda kicks. As he explains each move, our hero mimics them perfectly, refining the details until the movements feel like second nature. Suddenly, a notification pops up, and he realizes with a surge of excitement that his final panel module has finally activated. He immediately tests the talent simulation state. His pupils contract, and his gaze becomes incredibly sharp. His eyes act like a high-definition camera, recording every nuance of Marcus's demonstration. By observing and correcting himself, his form becomes flawless. Marcus begins to notice the eerie change in his son's performance. Usually, he has to correct the boy's posture, but suddenly, the infant's movements are beyond reproach. Looking at his genius son, Marcus sighs quietly. He and Sarah had only wanted a quiet, easy child, unlike the energetic Chloe. Instead, they've raised a prodigy. By 1 month, his vision was fully developed. By 2 months, he was walking and climbing. At this rate, who knows what he'll be doing by the time he's a toddler. At just 3 months old, he's already running, jumping, and has even taught himself Sanda. Marcus, eyeing the $10 million government subsidy for raising a national prodigy, starts to feel a bit ambitious. When our hero learns that being certified as a prodigy comes with such a massive reward, he encourages his father to sign him up. They submit the application online, but the officials reject it because he hasn't reached the minimum age of 2. Marcus tells him not to feel too much pressure, as these national plans have impossibly high standards. But our hero isn't one to give up. He has his father download 5 terabytes of study materials so he can grind experience all day. He's determined to get that reward. During their weekly family dinner, Sarah takes out 4 pieces of honey insect glue, and our hero asks if he can try some. To be honest, he's probably the only infant eager for a taste. Seeing that his teeth are coming in and he's digesting fish just fine, Sarah shares her portion with him. As Chloe warned, the smell is quite unique, resembling something you'd find in a stable, especially when dissolved in hot water. The scent is truly overwhelming, but for the sake of his evolution, he's willing to suffer. He holds his breath and downs it like bitter medicine, only daring to breathe again once it's completely gone. At first, the taste makes him want to gag. But then, a wave of warmth flows down his throat, leaving him feeling incredibly comfortable. He's astonished to see his energy bar surge. A single gram of this glue, less than 1/10 of the serving, has increased his energy by 2%. That tiny gram packs as much nutrition as a full day's worth of milk. It seems food from the heavenly void is truly miraculous. After 2 weeks of focusing on his footwork and kicking techniques, he earns 6 more attribute points. This time, he decides against dumping everything into Constitution. He remembers a note on his talent panel. To improve the effectiveness of his simulation state, he needs to increase his spirit attribute. He pours all 6 points into spirit, and suddenly, it feels as if a bucket of ice water has been poured over his head. A chilling sensation seeps through his scalp, followed by a sharp, tingling numbness. Veins bulge on his forehead as he endures a splitting headache, but when he finally opens his eyes, the world looks much sharper. To test his new limits, he activates his simulation state and begins to mimic the family cat, Master Ginger. Master Ginger tilts his head in confusion as the infant lets out a perfect meow. The cat's face drops, clearly annoyed that this 2-legged beast is mocking him, and he promptly walks away. But then, a notification appears. By simply mimicking the pet, our hero has actually begun to master the feline language. After interacting with Master Ginger for half an hour, his cat language skill gains 2 experience points, which, naturally, is a very strange milestone. Unfortunately, Master Ginger isn't a very patient teacher, repeating the same few phrases with total indifference. Our hero wonders if evolving his mind further might eventually allow him to transmit thoughts directly through telepathy. And so, chatting with the cat becomes his new favorite hobby between training sessions. As summer approaches and the spring flu fades, Sarah takes advantage of her break from online teaching to wheel him around the neighborhood in a stroller. She hopes he'll socialize with other children instead of staying home and talking to the cat all day. As he sits in his stroller, he silently observes the other infants nearby, though he doesn't seem particularly impressed by his peers. When a little girl starts wailing and a boy joins in, our hero finds the whole display quite noisy. Other mothers notice how quiet and well-behaved he is, not crying, not fussing, and not even sucking on his thumb. They shower Sarah with compliments, wishing their own children were half as easy to manage. Sarah beams with pride. After all, who doesn't love hearing their child praised? She's just glad he's following her instructions to keep a low profile. One mother remarks that he looks incredibly intelligent and suggests taking him to a hospital for an IQ test, convinced he might be a child prodigy. The others chime in, noting how different he seems from ordinary toddlers. Hearing the growing excitement, Sarah starts to get nervous and tries to wave off the attention. But before she can make an excuse, one of the mothers walks up to the stroller and reaches out a finger toward him. The woman smiles warmly and asks our hero how many fingers she's holding up, promising him a piece of candy if he gets it right. Everyone waits for his response, as a 6-month-old who can understand adults and speak simple words would be a true genius. Naturally, he ignores the curiosity of the neighborhood mothers and turns his attention to a stray cat crouching by the flower bed. He lets out an enthusiastic meow, leaving the mothers speechless, though Sarah breathes a sigh of relief that he's acting like a normal baby. The stray cat looks back in confusion, but finding nothing of interest, it simply turns and trots away. There are plenty of strays in the neighborhood, however, and he plans to chat with them later to grind more experience for his cat language skill. Since adding 6 points to his spirit attribute, he's now able to teach himself advanced Sanda techniques just by watching video tutorials. He's only 21 points away from leveling up his fighter profession, and he's eager to see what rewards await him. Over the following days, he maintains a rigorous schedule of 3 training sessions a day while monitoring his progress. 2 weeks later, with a heart full of excitement, he opens his profession panel and decisively selects the option to advance. He didn't expect the rewards for his first professional level up to be quite so generous, especially the new weakness strike specialization. He's itching to test his new strength, feeling that he might finally be a match for the family cat, Master Ginger. He allocates the 10 attribute points he earned, feeling a surge of power explode within him as his small arms grow noticeably thicker. Now, with just a bit of effort, his tiny muscles ripple with strength, and his mind feels incredibly sharp and clear. The results of months of study flash through his mind, and in this perfect state, he decides it's time for a rematch with Master Ginger. However, the cat simply lets out a long yawn and looks at him with a rather unfriendly glare, leaving our hero smiling awkwardly. Master Ginger twitches his whiskers into what looks suspiciously like a cold sneer, and our hero senses that things are about to get difficult. It seems the cat has a bit of a morning temper, because a moment later, he blurs into motion and lunges at the infant's feet. Master Ginger likely expects the fight to end as quickly as the last one, but our hero is no longer the helpless infant he once was. After being knocked back, he executes a perfect roll to absorb the impact and springs back to his feet, creating some distance. Seeing this, a flash of genuine surprise crosses the cat's amber eyes. Our hero shifts into a professional Sanda stance, fists raised to protect his face, and tells the cat they should continue. Master Ginger flickers again, launching a flurry of rapid-fire paw strikes. The cat keeps his claws retracted, using his soft paw pads like boxing gloves to deliver a relentless barrage of blows. Our hero doesn't try to trade hits directly. Instead, he uses his footwork to circle around, patiently searching for an opening to counterattack. On the surface, it looks like the cat has the upper hand, but as Master Ginger leaps through the air to end the fight, our hero activates Weakness Strike. He launches a lightning-fast high kick aimed directly at the cat's exposed underbelly. Master Ginger manages to twist his body midair, narrowly avoiding the strike and landing on the sofa nearby. He shakes his head, his small eyes filled with shock that a two-legged beast actually forced him to retreat. Exhausted, our hero sits on the sofa and gasps for air. The duel only lasted a few minutes, but the intense focus required has left him completely drained. Still, the experience he gained from that single fight was worth more than an hour of high-intensity training. He looks at Master Ginger with newfound respect. He asks the cat if they can spar again in the future, and Master Ginger, seemingly acknowledging the boy's potential, responds with a patient series of meows. Delighted, our hero approaches the cat and bows his head in a gesture of gratitude. Time flies, and by the time he is 9 months old, he has already grown to a height of 87 centimeters. He looks like a 2-year-old, and in terms of raw physical capability, he has already reached the level of a healthy teenager. In this world, parents are obsessed with early development, and thanks to supplements like honey insect glue, many children grow at an accelerated rate. Most infants are walking by the age of 1, which helps them blend in somewhat. After a brief negotiation, the two children close the bedroom door, and Chloe flashes a mischievous, slightly wicked grin. She reminds him of their deal. If she hits him too hard, he isn't allowed to cry or tell their mother. He promises to keep his word. He immediately lunges forward, leading with his left foot. At first, Chloe doesn't take him seriously at all, attempting to simply kick him back, but he swiftly sidesteps her strike and reaches out to grab her leg in a firm hold. He bends low and lunges forward, driving his head firmly into her stomach. With a startled yelp, Chloe loses her balance and tumbles onto the bed, staring back at him with wide, disbelieving eyes. The fall didn't hurt, but the shock to her system was immense. It was impossible, absolutely impossible. Her little brother hadn't even been born a year ago, and she struggles to find a logical explanation for this anomaly. Soon, she realizes that since Sarah simply brought him home one day, no one actually witnessed his birth. To her, there is only one logical conclusion. She bolts from the bedroom, shouting at the top of her lungs that Sarah has been tricked and that this baby isn't her biological brother. Reaching the living room, Chloe frantically searches for her mother while screaming the news. She warns Sarah that he is actually an alien life form sent to destroy the Earth. Our hero simply sits there with a brilliant smile, waiting for the show to begin. Sure enough, 5 minutes later, Sarah finishes her evening lesson and emerges with a very different priority. The first thing she does is grab Chloe by the ear for a stern lecture, threatening to cut meat from her dinner if she continues to disrupt her classes. Chloe rubs her ear in bitter indignation, convinced her mother will end up like a side character in a movie, eaten because she didn't believe the hero. Once Sarah clarifies what happened, she shares the story with Ryan when he returns home. This leads to a second sparring match between the siblings. This time, Chloe goes all out, determined to force this alien to reveal its true, monstrous form. Our hero remains perfectly calm, parrying her strikes and searching for openings in her movements. This high-intensity combat is leveling his experience at a blistering pace. After absorbing 5 terabytes of study material, he is starting to look like a seasoned pro. He now understands exactly how to dodge, block, and counter in a real fight, even knowing how to disrupt his opponent's rhythm. Chloe, on the other hand, despite having studied Sanda for years, has always been a bit lazy with her practice. Consequently, she finds herself being thrown again. She hits the floor with a pained grimace, her face contorted in a mix of frustration and physical discomfort. Gasping for air, she stares blankly at the ceiling and declares in despair that the aliens are finally taking over the world. Our hero's progress has once again exceeded Ryan's wildest expectations. It seems he is now very close to the threshold of the genius training program. Encouraged, Ryan prepares 2 extra meat dishes to ensure the children are well nourished. Over the next 2 months of summer break, Chloe officially becomes his gold medal sparring partner. She is obsessed with defeating her brother just to see him drop his disguise. He is more than happy to accept her challenges, as his imitation state makes his combat training incredibly efficient. Time flies by, and soon it is October, the date of his very first birthday since being reborn into this world. At the dinner table, his parents clap and sing the birthday song while Chloe hums along after a quick nudge from Sarah. Our hero sits in his chair, holding a baby bottle like a wine glass and draining it in one go. He closes his eyes to make a wish before blowing out the candles. When it's time for gifts, Chloe uses her allowance to buy him a picture book about alien movies. She points to a drawing of an alien nest and whispers, asking if he doesn't need to go back now that the man-eating flowers have bloomed. To be honest, her persistence is almost admirable. Then it's Dad's turn. Ryan hands him a small blue bottle that looks like common calcium medicine, but the label reads, Tier 1 Purified Nutrient Solution. Ryan smiles, explaining that this is much easier for the body to absorb than the standard honey insect glue. After silently thanking everyone for the gifts, he checks his status and realizes he has finally reached a major milestone. His first major achievement is unlocked. With 30 points in Constitution, he now possesses the physical strength of an athletic adult male. He dives into the reward descriptions, noting that among his talents and specializations, the beast form offers the biggest boost to his combat power. He then examines a new passive talent called Carnivore. It's a non-combat talent that can't be leveled up, but it provides a permanent benefit. From now on, his daily training will be supported by this talent, allowing his body to recover from fatigue and minor injuries much faster. With the rewards settled, he looks toward his next evolutionary goal. If 30 points of Constitution equals a healthy adult, then 100 points must represent the absolute limit of human potential. He wonders what lies beyond that, perhaps a form that transcends humanity entirely. The word transcendent flashes through his mind, filling him with a renewed sense of purpose. Having successfully cleared his first hurdle, he feels the second one is well within his reach. That very night, he begins testing his new limits. He begins testing his evolved physical limits while his father, Ryan, records the entire session on his phone. Whether it's strength, the long jump, or the 100-meter dash, his results far exceed the genius program's threshold. It's hard to believe, but at just 1 year old, he has met every single requirement for the program. Ryan wastes no time uploading the application materials before calling Sarah over to share the good news. The family waits with bated breath for an official response, assuming the office has closed for the day. However, a sudden knock at the door surprises them. It's a staff member from the registration office. At the same moment, an email notification confirms that an official has arrived. The speed of their response is honestly staggering. After verifying the man's credentials, Ryan finally allows him inside. The visitor is the deputy director of the Advanced Talent Cultivation Department. After confirming the application details with the couple, he asks to see the candidate. Ryan takes a deep breath and opens the bedroom door. It is finally time for our hero to reveal his gifts after staying low profile for so long. The director watches the toddler walk with such light, fluid steps and speaks so fluently, feeling that the world has become quite absurd. He asks several questions to confirm our hero's identity and his willingness to join the program. Once the registration is complete, he produces a watch with an electronic screen and asks the boy to put it on. Once the watch is on, he realizes it cannot be removed. The director explains with a smile that this is a mandatory measure to prevent accidents during selection, and the device will be collected once the process ends. The director suddenly glances toward the shoe cabinet, where their cat, Cookie, is peeking out at the stranger. He reminds the parents that since the child can communicate with cats, this spirit pet can also participate. The cat, it seems, is about to be drafted into the evaluation process as well. When the time for the official selection arrives, we see the family entering the facility. It's late, and one would expect everyone to be asleep, but 2 young children are facing off in the lobby. One of them, holding a bottle of water, boasts proudly that he can pee a distance of 5 meters. Not to be outdone, the other child snorts 2 long trails of mucus back into his mouth and asks if the first boy can match his talent for eating his own nose-clogging snacks. A truly high-level exchange, clearly. As these 2 geniuses display their unique talents, they notice the adults arriving and immediately try to make a run for it. The director quickly calls out, asking where their supervisor, Dr. Miller, has gone. The kids vanish before they can finish their answer. Our hero observes his surroundings. While the exterior is a military base, the interior is a high-tech cradle for geniuses designed to keep them safe from outside risks. As the director reaches for his phone, a young woman in gold-rimmed glasses approaches them with a stack of documents. When she sees the director, she greets him warmly, noting that their province has brought a real surprise. In the 15-year history of the program, this is the first time a 1-year-old has ever applied. The director shakes her hand, addressing her as Dr. Miller, and admits that this particular child is indeed quite unusual. Dr. Miller turns her gaze toward our hero, promising to observe him closely. He looks up and notices the ID badge pinned to her chest, which identifies her as a researcher from the Transcendent Institute. After a brief chat with Sarah, Dr. Miller asks our hero if he needs anything. Seeing him staring at her chest, she jokingly asks if he's hungry and looking for milk, which she unfortunately doesn't have on hand. He responds quite flatly that he is already capable of eating solid food. She naturally picks him up and pinches his cheek, seemingly finding him quite adorable, before turning back to Sarah with a smile. Dr. Miller asks if she can give him a kiss, and Sarah immediately agrees, noting that the boy loves being affectionate. Our hero, however, is less than thrilled about being volunteered for a face full of lipstick. After a few enthusiastic kisses leave him covered in saliva, Dr. Miller leads the family to their assigned dormitory. It's a fully equipped apartment that feels remarkably like home, where she leaves them to rest until morning. Once they finish unpacking, a sudden knock at the door reveals a crowd of nearly 30 children. They've all gathered to catch a glimpse of the legendary 1-year-old monster they've heard so much about. Ryan steps aside with a wry smile, inviting his son to meet his new competitors. Our hero looks at the crowd, wondering why on earth none of these children are in bed at such a late hour. It turns out the two boys from earlier, the long-distance peer and the snack-eating snorter, woke everyone else up. Seeing how small our hero actually is, the group begins firing off a barrage of rather personal questions. They ask if he wears diapers, if he cries when he's hungry, and most importantly, if he'll cry for his mommy if they hit him. That last question earns a very meaningful smile from our hero. They'll have their answers soon enough. The next morning is a whirlwind of medical checks, from blood tests to hair samples. Afterward, following Dr. Miller's instructions, he activates his electronic watch, which pops up a notification regarding his potential score. Dr. Miller explains that this score is the core metric for passing the selection process, tracked through every single action he takes. He nods in understanding, having officially confirmed his participation in the program. There are currently 126 candidates at the base. As he steps out of the hospital, his watch chirps. He has already earned his first potential point, though the scoring criteria remain a closely guarded secret. Dr. Miller advises him not to overthink it, and to simply live and study as he normally would. He agrees, figuring his normal routine of eating, sleeping, and dealing with nuisances should serve him just fine. He decides to let his daily life speak for itself, but the watch chirps again with a new schedule. He expected physical trials or combat, but it seems his first challenge is actually a classroom lecture. The subject is mental cultivation, a topic he finds quite intriguing. Inside the small classroom, a silver-haired instructor begins explaining the foundational concepts of mental training to a group of 4 students. His 3 classmates are none other than the boys from the night before, who spend the lesson whispering and making faces at him. They clearly doubt a toddler can even begin to grasp the teacher's words. The instructor ignores the distractions and explains that the basic method involves meditation paired with a special potion. This combination allows the mind to break free from the body and travel through higher dimensions. After the explanation, the teacher hands out 4 vials of the serum. Our hero notes the name, finds the taste surprisingly sweet, and suddenly feels a sense of weightlessness as if he's beginning to drift away. Following the teacher's guidance, his consciousness blurs and enters a vast, deep darkness. The goal is simple: move forward through the void without stopping. However, the mental pressure builds with every step. It's like walking forward with your eyes closed. Even if you know the path is clear, the instinct to stop or open your eyes is overwhelming. In this meditative state, he can only rely on his intuition to keep moving. 8 minutes in, the first 2 boys drop out, drenched in sweat and gasping for air. The third boy lasts 10 minutes before opening his eyes, looking exhausted but smugly satisfied with his performance, until he looks at our hero. The 3 boys are stunned to see the toddler still deep in meditation, his spirit clearly stronger than theirs. They retreat from the classroom and immediately start shouting for everyone to come see the monster in action. A crowd of children gathers at the window, whispering about whether he's simply fallen asleep. That would be impossible given the potency of the serum, but inside the classroom, our hero is only just getting started. He slowly opens his eyes and checks his watch, surprised to find only 14 minutes have passed, though it felt like 3 whole days. With a quiet sigh of amazement, we see him open his status window. Seeing the data change brings a smile to his face, as this is the first time his mental attributes have grown through actual training. It seems he's in the right place, having already completed his very first lesson at the base. As he looks at the upcoming curriculum, he feels a surge of genuine excitement. Up until now, his mental growth relied entirely on system rewards, so the idea of actual cultivation techniques is a welcome surprise. He's ready to dive back into another meditation session immediately, but the veteran instructor steps in to stop him. Checking his watch after class, he notes he gained a single point, a suspiciously easy score, or so he thinks. What he doesn't realize is that while he earned a point for that mental cultivation session, his classmates, the diaper-clad boy and the snorter, earned absolutely nothing. The second lesson focuses on the advanced stages of meditation. The instructor explains that a stronger mind can eventually touch the laws of higher dimensions. To illustrate this, he draws 2 points on a piece of paper. Normally, a straight line is the shortest distance, but then he folds the paper. An ordinary person must travel the full distance from point A to B, but a transcendent being uses higher laws to make them overlap. This, we learn, is the essence of space jumping. By the time the morning session ends, our hero's head is spinning, his entire worldview thoroughly shaken after just 2 classes. It truly is a remarkable world. At lunch, everyone receives free meals via facial recognition, and after loading up on meat, he heads to the counter. He asks the cafeteria lady for 2 servings of honey bug jelly, which causes the diaper-wearing boy's eyes to nearly pop out of his head. He asks if our hero lacks taste buds, describing the jelly as tasting like damp, rotting earth. Our hero simply ignores him, mashing the jelly and mixing it with water. As he does, a pungent, overwhelming odor begins to waft through the air, catching the attention of everyone nearby. The other children can't believe a 1-year-old can stomach it, so they decide to try it themselves. Naturally, after just 1 sip, they're all gagging. After lunch, he returns to the dorm and checks a fan-made daily leaderboard. Out of 98 participants, his 5 points from the morning put him at rank 45. The leader, a boy nicknamed One Punch Man, is already sitting at a staggering 11.7 points. That afternoon, a bus shuttles the children to the physical training hall. The sight of the vast facility and the intense atmosphere makes his blood boil with anticipation, especially since the training intensity is entirely up to him. He heads straight for the unarmed combat zone, ignoring the whispers of the older kids. He focuses intently on the instructor, even standing up to activate his mimicry state to copy the technical movements in real time. The instructor, a man named Marcus, intended to finish his demonstration quickly, but he suddenly freezes mid-sentence. He stares at the toddler in front of him with pure astonishment. The boy's counterattacking form is fluid and perfectly timed. Marcus finishes the lesson and immediately rushes over to ask how long the boy has been practicing. When a nearby child mentions he's only 1 and has been at it for a few months, the instructor can hardly believe his ears. The other boy shouts in disbelief, wondering if the world has gone mad. Our hero just gives a shy smile, jokingly suggesting that since he didn't have much to do after being born, he just picked up a hobby. Upon learning the boy is largely self-taught, Marcus hands him a business card. He promises that regardless of the selection results, if the boy ever wants to become a professional fighter, he should call him immediately. 20 minutes later, during a break, our hero heads to the restroom. He faces a tragic realization. The urinals are far too high for him to reach. Meanwhile, the diaper boy is outside boasting to his friends about his range. Without waiting for an answer, the boy demonstrates his impressive aim, successfully hitting the target from a distance. He finishes with a proud shake, declaring this to be his natural-born talent. To be honest, it's a strange thing to be proud of. Since the children at the base are so young, their stamina is limited and they often need breaks. But our hero treasures every moment of professional guidance. Marcus is incredibly patient, pointing out every flaw in his movements. He takes this opportunity to practice all his basic techniques. When the session ends, he checks his professional panel and is quite satisfied with how quickly his skills are leveling up. Meanwhile, the unarmed combat classes are finishing. Everyone gathers in the center of the hall for the sparring session, where coaches stand by as safety marshals. Once the rules are announced, different styles begin competing, and we see a heated display of martial arts. Watching these various styles feels like a goldmine of information for him. He activates his mimicry state, learning and practicing new moves on the spot. His panel updates constantly as he watches the boxers and brawlers get eliminated. The diaper boy, deciding it's his turn to shine, strikes a boxing pose and steps onto the stage to challenge a wrestler. The wrestler lunges forward with a grin, but the boy twists his hips and uses a powerful throw to send him flying. He pats his waist with a smug smile, boasting that with his natural core strength, he has nothing to fear from close combat. The crowd goes silent, and our hero realizes that everyone in this base has their own unique edge. He considers his own path, deciding to stick with kickboxing while adding some wrestling techniques to improve his ground game. After watching for a while, he decides it's finally his turn and steps onto the stage. A heavy silence falls over the room, as it seems no one is willing to face him. Realizing why they're hesitant, he offers a deal. He just wants someone to spar for 3 moves to test his endurance, acting as a training partner. This offer finally tempts someone. After all, surviving 3 moves against a little monster is a good way to build a connection. A boy with a buzz cut steps up, and the match begins with the first move. Our hero takes the initiative, his short legs moving like a blur as he charges forward. He suddenly pivots to the boy's side, reaching out to grab his supporting leg. The buzz-cut boy calmly drops his center of gravity to resist. In that split second, every muscle in our hero's small body tenses up, as his muscles surge with hidden power. He delivers an unstoppable strike. His head connects with the opponent's solar plexus, triggering a perfect exploit of the boy's weakness. The buzz-cut boy simply cannot withstand such terrifying force. He is sent flying instantly, the match decided in a single move. The entire hall is speechless, with both children and coaches looking on in shock. He deactivates his beast state and kindly helps the boy up. He thanks his partner for the practice, marking his first successful victory at the base. But before he can even celebrate, a notification pops up on his system panel. It seems his instructor, Marcus, is already thinking about dinner. He discovers his potential score has jumped by 9 points. After dinner, his mother sets up a video call so the whole family can talk. As soon as his father's face appears, we hear the frantic sound of slippers hitting the floor. His sister, Chloe, pushes her way onto the screen, desperate to talk to her brother. With an expectant look, she asks if he's passed the selection yet, and, more importantly, if he's received the prize money. He waves her off, telling her with the gravity of an old man that results take months. He reminds her to study hard at school and behave at home so she doesn't upset their father. Chloe nods along obediently at first. Eventually, she realizes something feels off. It's as if her little brother is lecturing her. After the call, he prepares for his homework. Since the problems require middle school physics, he needs to make his knowledge look natural. He opens the tablet provided by the base and begins scrolling through textbooks at an incredible speed. Thanks to his quantum reading ability, he finishes the entire elementary curriculum in just 2 hours before moving on. He starts on the middle school physics material, pondering a video from his assignment. It shows a transcendent being freezing water instantly, then melting it, and even conjuring gold in a sealed room. He wonders how to explain that. After browsing through all the physics textbooks, he relies on his impressive mental attribute of 27.1 to focus. He easily locks onto key concepts like temperature and heat, but instead of using standard physics, he combines high-dimensional rules to form a hypothesis. He sends his findings to the old instructor, Jacob, and quickly receives a positive response. Suddenly, a notification pops up on the base's app. It seems the former top-ranked student, One Punch Man, who averaged 11.7 points per day, has been replaced by our hero, who is averaging a staggering 19 points. As soon as these results are posted, the comment section explodes with skepticism. However, the moment One Punch Man himself leaves a comment, the chat goes silent. One can almost feel the collective shock of the children through the screen. If the former number one accepts it, then the 19 points must be real. He merely glances at the comments, feeling no need to respond to the doubters. He checks his panel and sees he only needs 3 more attribute points. Once he reaches his next evolution milestone, he'll unlock high-quality form and talent rewards. To be honest, it's not just our protagonist who is excited. We are quite curious to see what these rewards will be. Having mastered meditation, his mental attributes now increase by 0.1 every single day. It seems the achievement for a junior mental body is finally within reach. As he maintains his daily practice, his meditation sessions grow longer, improving from 14 minutes to 17 minutes in just 1 week. Although he hasn't perceived the high-dimensional laws yet, he makes a startling discovery. Without the meditation fluid provided by the base, he cannot enter the state at all. He visits Jacob to ask if he can have an extra ration due to his young age, but the old instructor refuses him on the spot. However, Jacob does offer a detailed explanation. Perceiving high-dimensional laws requires not only immense mental and physical strength, but also the kind of luck one needs to win the lottery. One's physique must be near the human genetic limit just to qualify for the transcendent realm. If a person is extremely lucky, they might perceive high-dimensional power on their first try. If luck isn't on your side, even 100 extra bottles of meditation fluid won't make a bit of difference. Since he can't reach those laws in the short term, he decides to keep meditating to grind his attributes. Based on Jacob's description, an elite physique likely matches his next evolution goal. After dinner, he heads to the training hall as usual. Upon entering, he spots a boy with a head as smooth as a polished egg. After asking around, he learns this is the famous One Punch Man from the leaderboard. The boy, let's call him Saitama, is currently performing 100-kilogram bench presses. Saitama looks to be only 6 or 7 years old, yet his muscle definition is incredible, with visible striations in his shoulders and arms. Our hero begins his own squat routine. Currently, without activating his beast form, his weighted squat max is 90 kilograms. While he is focused on his workout, a sigh comes from behind him. It really is a bit of a pity. He turns to find Saitama, striking up a conversation. Not understanding the sentiment, he asks what exactly is so pitiful. It's a pity you don't have transcendent traits, Saitama replies. Saitama explains that many at the base are born with these traits, allowing them to reach A rank or even S rank with very little effort. While our hero has high potential and discipline, the lack of a natural transcendent trait means he might struggle to impress the picky experts, who might only give him an A rank. Instead of arguing, our hero simply smiles and asks Saitama about his own goals. Saitama replies that with his traits and willpower, S rank is the base's limit. But it isn't his limit. Curious about where this is going, our hero asks why he's being told all this. Saitama looks at him with total sincerity and suggests that if the base doesn't give him an S rank, he should come join Saitama's team for S rank treatment. It's quite impressive to see a 7-year-old already headhunting and trying to poach talent from the base. Rather than giving a direct refusal, our hero stands up and begins piling more plates onto his barbell. As he adds weight, the total rises rapidly. 90 kilograms, 110, 130, and finally 150 kilograms. Saitama's calm expression vanishes, replaced by a look of pure shock. Having finished loading the bar, our hero turns back with a grin and remarks that S rank isn't his limit either. He shoulders the 150-kilogram barbell and performs 3 perfect, crisp squats. When he's finished, he drops the bar back onto the rack with a thunderous clang. Everyone in the room is stunned, and Saitama stands there in total, speechless silence. Saitama's expression becomes incredibly serious. It seems he understands exactly what our hero is trying to say with this display. The bald boy takes a deep breath, nods, and turns to leave without another word. Having just pushed his body by activating beast form for that stunt, our hero realizes he needs to be careful. To avoid any potential injury, he decides to end his strength training early for the night. He calls out to his friend, the little girl we know as Puddles, to head back to the dorms, but their other companion is nowhere to be seen. At this very moment, in another training room, Snotty is busy performing 360-degree rotations on the high bar. As he spins, quite a bit of mucus flies out, which he casually wipes into his mouth with a satisfied mumble about getting stronger. Yes, it's as gross as it sounds. Soon, a new week begins, focusing largely on wilderness survival and exploration training. Our hero, naturally, picks up these skills with remarkable speed. He gains several useful survival skills, yet he notices that despite his mastery, the Explorer profession panel hasn't unlocked yet. He isn't too worried, though. His priority is still securing the evolution achievement for a junior mental body. He decides to let things take their natural course for now. And just like that, everything falls into place. His evolution bar fills up once again, granting him 2 new attribute points which he immediately invests into his mental stats. His panel flickers with a series of notifications, revealing rewards similar to those he received during his infant beast phase. He receives 1 new form and 1 new talent. He eagerly opens the details, feeling quite satisfied with his new superbrain state, which he can now activate at will. Then there is the combined talent, Carnivore, which provides a significant boost to the growth and recovery speed of both his mental and physical attributes. Looking over his updated panel, he feels a genuine sense of accomplishment regarding his current abilities. He calculates that if he can push both his physical and mental attributes to 100 points, he should qualify for the Transcendent Realm. It's an ambitious plan, to be sure. He sets a small goal for himself, reach that milestone before he turns 3. Once the children have mastered their survival skills, the lessons on the Heavenly Void begin. The next day, he packs his base-issued gear and his cat, Discount, and boards the base's transport bus. After passing through a device that looks remarkably like a space-time portal, they are greeted by blue skies, white clouds, and 3 suns of varying sizes. With the wind howling and purple grass swaying, we see that they are now standing in the middle of a vast grassland. The old instructor, Jacob, addresses the group. He reminds them that their mission is to survive here for 1 month, exploring for valuable resources and bringing them back to the starting point. If they are injured or face a life-threatening situation, the instructors will rescue them, but that would mean the mission is a failure. With the instructions finished, the children are free to move as they please, whether they choose to form teams or work alone. As soon as the rules are explained, the children scatter in every direction. Our hero, relying on his impressive 30.3 physical attribute, sets off at a brisk pace. With his short legs moving fast and Discount leading the way, they head toward a distant forest. Halfway there, he hears a familiar voice shouting from behind, begging him to wait. It seems he isn't going to be alone on this journey after all. During the survival classes, he had used his superbrain and mimicry skills to become a top student, while Puddles struggled with even the simplest tools. Because she's a bit clumsy, she has decided that her best strategy for survival is to firmly stick to our hero's side. He watches as she catches up with a shameless grin on her face. They run toward the forest for about 30 seconds before Puddles suddenly lets out a sharp cry of alarm. The sudden noise startles Discount, and our hero spins around, worried that they are already under attack. However, he finds Puddles staring at her tablet in total despair because there is no internet signal. She was supposed to play a ranked match today. To be honest, wanting to play video games during a survival mission is a level of dedication we can't help but admire. Even Discount looks back in disbelief. Both the boy and the cat stare at Puddles with annoyed expressions until she finally feels embarrassed enough to tuck the tablet back into her bag. Feeling that this teammate might be a bit unreliable, our hero suggests they should probably move separately, claiming he's only one and might hold her back. Puddles panics at the thought of being left behind, insisting she can be helpful because she's an expert at chumming for fish. Our hero, pretending not to understand the term, asks what exactly she means by that. She explains that it involves putting something in the water to attract the fish. She claims her specific bait is the most effective kind there is. This actually piques our hero's interest, and he asks what kind of special bait she uses. Puddles gives him a mischievous grin and explains that whenever she pees in the water, the fish come charging out like they've gone mad. Hearing about her urine chumming technique, our hero feels his mental composure start to crumble. He tries to decline her company again, telling her they really aren't a good match and he doesn't want to be a burden. But Puddles isn't ready to give up just yet. She quickly adds that she also brought along a spirit retriever to help them out. It's only then that our hero notices a small golden retriever following far behind, panting heavily with its tongue out. It's a water hound, and apparently, it's a very fast swimmer. Puddles quickly adds that her brother told her the danger level of this old world zone is extremely low, so there's no need to worry about combat. Her brother, it seems, came here last year and even earned an A rank. Our hero nods as he considers this. Realizing that Puddles actually possesses a fair amount of useful intelligence, he finally agrees to let her join his team. And so, with their alliance formed, the two of them begin their trek into the dense woods. As they enter the forest, they suddenly spot a small wild boar. Puddles immediately lets out a cry of alarm, warning him that these little boars are incredibly cunning and shouldn't be underestimated. She insists they must catch it. Our hero instructs Puddles and the golden retriever to cover him against any hidden boars, then pulls out a knife and gives chase. After a few quick strikes, the boar falls, leaving Puddles feeling quite relieved. She explains that her brother warned her these beasts are treacherous, preferring to ambush people while they sleep. Apparently, if you sleep with your legs apart, they'll charge right for the middle. A painful thought, to be sure. He calculates that this meet will last them 2 or 3 days. As darkness falls, we see them huddled by a fire at their shelter, letting their pets take turns standing guard. Before long, both our hero and Puddles drift off, but in the middle of the night, he feels a strange sensation. His face is itchy, and opening his eyes, he finds Discount licking him. He immediately understands the cat's warning. Something is stealing their meat. The little golden retriever senses it too and rushes to wake Puddles, but our hero signals for silence before quietly waking her himself. He whispers an explanation of the situation. The two children, the cat, and the dog creep out of the shelter toward the tree where the meat is hanging. They can just make out a figure climbing the trunk. Puddles grabs a stone to throw, but our hero stops her. Sensing something isn't right, he clicks on his flashlight. The beam reveals a young girl climbing the tree with silent, practiced movements. Caught in the sudden glare, the girl freezes, then slowly looks down with an awkward, polite smile. "You found me," she says simply. Back at the shelter, Puddles glares at the little thief with clear annoyance. The girl had tried to run, but Puddles managed to catch her after a clumsy tumble. Puddles demands to know why she's stealing their food. The girl keeps smiling, which only makes Puddles more frustrated. "Because I don't have any meat of my own," the girl admits, lowering her head in embarrassment. Such a blunt answer leaves Puddles speechless. By the firelight, our hero finally recognizes the girl. Her name is Chloe, and she's a strong student who consistently ranks in the top 5. Our hero calmly points out the cost of her actions. She disturbed their rest and wasted the limited battery life of his flashlight. Chloe nods, holds out her hands palms up, and closes her eyes, telling them to hit her. Puddles is taken aback, asking why they would do that. Chloe seems surprised, noting that people usually get hit when they're caught stealing. Our hero, however, has a different idea. He tells her she must compensate them for the loss instead. He suggests she offer any valuable resources she's found, or failing that, the woven grass cloak she's wearing. Chloe pulls her cloak tighter. She truly has nothing of value on her. She asks if information can count as compensation. Our hero nods, inviting her to speak. Chloe begins to describe her day, explaining how she ventured deep into the jungle alone after the group split up. There, in the heart of the forest, she found something. She discovered a cave, but was immediately ambushed by several gloom wolves. These creatures are fierce, with razor-sharp claws. She lost her backpack while fleeing through the valley and was nearly caught because she didn't know the terrain. But then, something strange happened. A massive, 2-meter-tall figure appeared in the depths of the valley, accompanied by a thunderous, rumbling sound. Upon hearing it, the wolves abandoned their prey and fled in terror. Exhausted and hungry after escaping, Chloe spotted their meat hanging in the tree. And that is why she decided to steal a meal. Hearing this, and combining it with what Puddles told him earlier, our hero suspects that the giant shadow might be more than it seems. Just as he prepares to verify her story, Puddles steps forward with a serious expression. She claims she has a way to tell if Chloe is lying. She stands before the girl and commands her to retell the entire story backward, starting from the moment she tried to steal the meat. Chloe is confused, but she complies, recounting the events in reverse order. After listening, Puddles pulls our hero aside and whispers that the story is likely true. She explains that people usually lie in chronological order, and trying to do it backward leads to stumbles and mistakes. Our hero is impressed, and Puddles admits she learned the trick from her father. Puddles explains that once, when her mother returned from a trip, she made her recount her entire day in reverse to prove she'd been studying. "And then what?" our hero asks. Puddles' smile freezes as she admits she got a spanking. Returning to the girl, he speaks. He tells her she can go. Chloe nods, but her eyes remain fixed on the pot containing dozens of berries, while her stomach lets out a loud, traitorous growl. Hearing about her earlier ordeal, he realizes her combat skills likely surpass those of Puddles. In fact, he thinks they could actually cooperate to explore that cave. With this in mind, he grabs a handful of berries and places them in her hand. He tells her the information was valuable enough to earn her a meal. Chloe's eyes light up, and she devours them instantly. It's clear that wasn't enough to fill her up. Seeing his opening, he proposes a partnership. They explore the cave together, and she gets half the berries plus a piece of meat. Upon hearing the offer, Chloe visibly hesitates. She glances at the pot, but resists the temptation, whispers a quick "thank you," and vanishes into the dark jungle with surprising speed. The next morning, our hero and Puddles agree to find that cave as soon as possible. They pack up, and with their cat and dog in tow, the group sets off once more. After 3 hours of trekking, they finally reach their destination. Puddles looks at the thorn-covered mountain path where Chloe had been wandering and lets out a whistle of pure amazement. Then, she turns serious. She warns him to be careful. If the base has to rescue them, their expedition is a failure. With a nod, our hero leads Discount into the woods. They've only gone a few steps when a dark shape emerges from the brush. This, as it turns out, is one of the gloom wolves Chloe mentioned, a top-tier predator in this zone. The wolf's eyes glow with a predatory light as it growls. He signals Puddles to stay back, draws his knife, and charges. The wolf is stunned that such a small creature would actually dare to attack it. It roars, baring its fangs as it lunges. To be honest, fighting a wild beast provides a much greater psychological shock than any arena match. He steadies his nerves and begins to coordinate with Discount. They circle the wolf, testing its strength. Discount leaps about, constantly drawing the beast's attention, until 2 minutes later, our hero sees his chance. He instantly activates his beast mode, lunges forward, and drives his knife deep into the wolf's belly. The blade pierces through, triggering a massive damage bonus from a well-timed critical hit. The wolf howls and slowly collapses. With their first victory secured, spirits are high. After a short rest, they push on. Following Chloe's directions, half an hour later, we find a hidden cave tucked into the corner of a depression, but the sight before them is daunting. Over 30 gloom wolves are gathered, howling in unison at something inside. Puddles' legs go a bit weak at the sight. She suggests they retreat before they're spotted. He nods and prepares to back away quietly, but suddenly, a blue light flashes from deep within the cave. A rhythmic, heavy thudding follows, like a giant treading on the earth, which sends the wolves into a panicked frenzy. Our hero narrows his eyes and finally sees it. It is exactly what Chloe had described, a massive robot. It's a C-Series nanny bot, its mechanical voice repeating that it is ready to serve. After several failed lunges, the wolves realize they can't enter the cave and begin to retreat. The robot doesn't chase them. Instead, it turns and disappears back into the depths with a heavy rumble. Once they reach a safe distance, Puddles asks what the plan is. He insists they must enter the cave, but they have to be smart about it. After all, they are here for an adventure, not a suicide mission. Since there are so many wolves, they decide to set traps and pick them off one by one. It seems they'll need a few more hands to help. As they search the valley for trap materials and potential partners, they suddenly hear an argument nearby. One voice boasts about catching fish and rabbits with nothing but bait, while the other claims his skills involve basketball, singing, and dancing. Recognizing the familiar voices, our hero can't help but smile. It seems their help has just delivered itself to their door. Over the next 5 or 6 days, everything goes according to plan. They slowly wear down the pack of 40 wolves until only a few remain. Only now do the surviving beasts realize just how much trouble they're in. And so, the group rushes out of the valley together, clearing the wolves blocking the entrance. A moment later, the 4 of them cautiously approach the cave as that heavy, rhythmic thudding begins again. The rusted nanny bot emerges once more, and this time, it speaks in a warm, mechanical tone, announcing itself as a C-Series nanny bot ready to serve. Facing a machine capable of taking on an entire pack of wolves alone, our group decides not to make any sudden moves. Instead, our hero uses his translator to mimic the robot's frequency, replying that he requires service. The machine freezes, its sensors locking onto him. It detects an infant. Suddenly, its mechanical arms begin to twitch and extend. We see its arms rise as if to drive the others away, yet they also reach out as if wanting to pick him up. After several minutes of this internal conflict, a sharp crackle of electricity sounds, and the blue light in the robot's eyes fades out. It stands perfectly still, completely shut down. It seems that even for a robot, indecision can lead to a total system crash. Taking advantage of the silence, he cautiously steps forward, but the machine remains unresponsive. Seeing this, Puddles is delighted and slips past the metal giant. The group switches on their flashlights and finds a straight path leading to a small living base behind 2 open metal doors. There, they find the remains of a man and a woman resting together. He is surprised to find they look human. He had expected alien civilizations to be far more bizarre. Through a camera-like device, we learn they were a pair of powerful beings with the gift of flight, drawn here by the planet's beauty. They had chosen to settle here, but one day, the sky was filled with countless small black clouds. These clouds released devastating lasers that tore the world apart. The couple rushed to help, but even their extraordinary powers were no match for the black clouds. Heavily wounded, they could only hide in this base. Unfortunately, without the specific medicine needed to treat their kind, a figure suddenly appears behind our group. It's the old instructor, Jacob, congratulating them on finding the most precious relic of this civilization in just 8 days. He walks in slowly, glancing at the documents on his phone. He looks at our young hero and remarks on his incredible luck. Apparently, the boy triggered the robot's infant protection program. Otherwise, getting past that guardian would have been nearly impossible. Hearing this, he raises his camera and asks what those black clouds actually were. The other children lean in, equally curious. Jacob explains that they are called hunters, beings that travel the universe and live by preying on civilizations. His expression turns grim as he explains that whenever a civilization matures, the hunters attack, strip the resources, and blast the planet's surface to rubble so that civilization must start over from scratch, much like harvesting a crop. This revelation leaves the atmosphere heavy and cold. They wonder if Earth has been targeted, but Jacob admits they don't know. However, they must always be prepared. He gestures to the group, explaining that this is why the selection base exists. If even one of them can become a guardian of their civilization, then all their efforts will have been worth it. A month later, everyone regathers at the camp. 5 people were eliminated during this survival expedition. Because our hero's score was the highest in the field, his ranking has surged into the top 10 of the entire base. But the real surprise is that his watch has unlocked the Explorer's Market. In this shop, he can purchase all sorts of advanced supplies. Just as he finishes registering his personal information, a notification pops up on his panel. He clicks it without hesitation, and a seasoned Explorer hands him a business card. This time, it's a genuine invitation rather than a recruitment pitch. The man admits he had vastly underestimated the boy's performance. He tells him that even without supernatural traits, his skills are S rank, and he offers a sincere apology. He invites our hero to visit his family's company in the future. He accepts the card with a nod, and as the man leaves, his ranking rises to 9th place. A few days later, Luna comes by to say her goodbyes and express her gratitude. Her recent survival expedition started disastrously, but she earned plenty of points, partly thanks to our hero's help, and was ultimately rated A rank. After she leaves, his ranking climbs to 6th place. By now, the legend of the 1-year-old Superman has spread throughout the base, leading the administration to implement special confidentiality measures. From then on, he mostly studies and trains alone, watching his old instructor, who seems to know everything. He curiously asks if Jacob is a supernatural being himself. The old man simply sips his tea and asks with a mischievous smile, "What do you think?" Not wanting to play games, our hero turns and walks away, leaving the old man staring blankly at his back. 2 weeks later, another friend, Leo, prepares to leave the base. He feels quite dejected because his final rating was only a C+. However, Leo doesn't stay pessimistic for long, choosing instead to look forward to the future. He jokes that since he's handsome and can sing, dance, and play basketball, he might just debut as an idol trainee and become a superstar. A week later, the results for Puddles and Sniffles are finally released. Puddles is ranked B+, while Sniffles earns AB. Both meet the genius standard and are entitled to excellent benefits. The two immediately apply to go home early to celebrate with their families. Before they depart, the group gathers for one last meal in the base cafeteria. Puddles and Sniffles maintain a mock solemn atmosphere, holding their dog and staring at the empty seat next to them as if Leo had heroically sacrificed himself. Sniffles then turns to our hero, noting that since he is now ranked first, he will surely be rated S rank or at least A+. He adds that if our hero doesn't get an S rank, the people running this base must be completely incompetent. Puddles waves a hand dismissively. Having passed the selection, she's speaking with much more confidence than usual. She admits she has a feeling that in a few years, they'll all be relying on him for help. They leave him their contact info and home addresses, insisting he visit them. Meanwhile, in the base conference room, a group of experts is engaged in a heated debate. For 15 years, there hasn't been a single S-rank candidate who lacked supernatural traits. A conservative representative argues that while Marcus has extreme potential, the lack of supernatural traits creates too much uncertainty. He might become an elite in a few years, but he might also remain stuck at the elite level for the rest of his life. His words draw nods of agreement from several other conservative experts. In unison, they turn toward the head of the department, seeking a final decision. The old man sits at the head of the table, his gaze sweeping across the room. He tells them he knows exactly what they are thinking, that years ago, they gave out S ranks with high hopes, only for many of those talents to underperform. He accuses them of becoming overly conservative just to avoid future responsibility. While that caution is understandable, the old man's tone suddenly turns sharp and heavy. He asks if some of them are trying to save those limited S rank slots as favors for the elite supernatural families, being extra harsh on candidates from ordinary backgrounds. The conservative experts' faces pale instantly, and they quickly protest that they have no such ulterior motives. The old man nods with satisfaction and returns to the rating. He explains that they aren't just training ordinary supernaturals. They want the ultimate warriors who can guard their civilization. He claims he has seen that exact potential in a 1-year-old child. They see a risk of him failing to meet expectations, but he would rather take 10 times that risk than give up on this chance. At that moment, a staff member signals for the vote to begin. Should candidate Marcus be rated S rank under the Genius program? The old man is the first to raise his hand, followed by Dr. Shun at the end of the table. Seeing the senior leader willing to take the risk, most of the experts follow suit and vote in favor. Shortly after, the Official results are released from the conference room. Marcus is officially the 28th S rank in the National Genius Program. When he hears the news from Dr. Shun, he isn't particularly surprised, but his mother is absolutely overjoyed. Over the past few days, she has learned from other parents that the difference in treatment between ranks is massive. Now that her son is the highest S rank, he is essentially a national treasure. Having achieved his goal of reaching S rank, he decides it is finally time to go home. Just then, Dr. Shin sends a string of characters to his watch. He explains that the National Gifted Children Protection Act is now in effect for him, and the code on his watch is his official protection sequence number. If he ever encounters trouble, he simply needs to report his sequence number to the local authorities to receive immediate assistance. Furthermore, supernatural guardians will provide 24-hour close-range protection. Hearing this, Marcus nods repeatedly. He certainly appreciates that level of security. It's a great feeling, to be honest. He then asks Dr. Shun when the $10 million training subsidy will arrive. The doctor assures him that no one can withhold what is rightfully his, before handing a financial document to Marcus's mother, Sarah. The subsidy is primarily distributed as reimbursements through his online mall account, provided he keeps the official receipts. Now that the funds are secured and the Protection Act is in effect, only one final question remains for our young hero. He asks with great anticipation if a supernatural being will be assigned as his mentor. At this, Dr. Shin's expression turns slightly odd. He recalls a certain senior who bypassed all the standard procedures just to claim the mentorship spot for himself. With a wry smile, the doctor says the decision is nearly finalized and he'll be notified soon. After signing the Genius Program commitment letter, they board a private jet straight to the city airport, followed by a private car that takes them all the way home. Not long after they arrive, his father returns home, having taken a leave of absence to celebrate. He is beaming with pride, convinced his baby boy could achieve anything, and even orders a crate of beer to mark the occasion. Around 5 o'clock, his father goes to pick up his sister, Chloe, from school. Soon, the door bursts open and a young girl with a dirty uniform jumps inside. She immediately rushes to Marcus, offering him a can of sparkling water from the fridge. At dinner, Chloe solicitously places a large chicken leg in his bowl, and after his training, she brings him a towel and water, even massaging his shoulders. Marcus squints his eyes in satisfaction, enjoying a level of family status that has reached an all-time high. Eventually, Chloe's patience begins to wear thin, and she finally asks about the watch he promised her. Before she can transform into a human-shaped dinosaur, he shows her the logistics tracking on the mall app. Chloe's eyes light up when she sees it's the Explorer series, the most expensive and limited edition model available. For the next 2 days, she treats him with such excessive care that Sarah can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. The girl has never been this filial to her own parents, though this sibling affection trial period expires the moment the watch arrives. However, Marcus regains control of the situation by announcing that his account will now cover the family's grocery bills. Currently, the news of his S-rank status is known only to a few high-ranking officials. The city's mayor even pays a low-profile visit, and when asked if he needs anything, Marcus requests that his family's safety be prioritized. The mayor readily agrees, arranging private transport for the parents and Chloe, as well as a large apartment in a secure government compound. His parents are left dazed, finally realizing that their lives have changed forever. During the move, Marcus continues his daily training while waiting for his mentor to be confirmed. Surprisingly, it takes a full month before an email arrives, revealing that Senior Professor Jacob is the one who took the job. It turns out the old man from the base really is a supernatural being. Marcus's watch rings, and Jacob's voice crackles through, asking if he's surprised. He then sets a small goal for his new student. He expects Marcus to reach elite rank within 4 years, promising a big surprise if he succeeds, and a trip to the city to personally scold him if he fails. Marcus's lip twitches. He suspects the old man is entirely serious, though the goal itself is no problem at all. Jacob tells him they will discuss school once he reaches elite rank, and for now, he should just follow the training schedule. Having a mentor certainly simplifies things, and Marcus hangs up the phone in a much better mood. During this period, Chloe serves as his sparring partner every evening. Before he went to the base, he had to give his all just to find a chance to beat her. Now, they are on equal footing, which leads Chloe to grumble that her brother is a freak. A few days later, Jacob calls to say the training venue and coach are ready. Marcus will have an entire facility to himself, meaning no waiting for equipment and the freedom to train however he likes, all just a 30-minute drive from home. The coach arranged by Jacob arrives shortly after, a young woman with a high ponytail. She introduces herself as Tiffany, his dedicated instructor. Marcus places his barbell back on the rack and runs over to greet her. Although she was mentally prepared, Tiffany's eyes still twitch when she sees the 100-kilogram barbell. After a quick introduction and a look at her impressive resume, Marcus has no objections, and we see them finalize the training plan right then and there.